Hello and welcome everybody to this Azure Synapse Espresso. I'm joined here today by Filip Popovic, which means serverless SQL pools. Today we're going to talk about the files in your storage account and how they impact the performance on your serverless SQL pools. We're going to talk about what happens if you have a lot of small files and what process serverless SQL pool takes to list those files and how it impacts your performance and what steps you might take to optimize that performance. So, Philip, enlighten us. What can we talk about listing files and all that stuff?
So every query that you run in your serverless SQL pool is accessing files in your storage, which means that serverless SQL pool needs to list those files in order to understand the schema and read the data and process the query that you executed. So the performance of a serverless SQL pool query it depends on storage speed as well, particularly on listing file space. And there is that can make a huge difference in your query execution. So if you have many large file, many files, then it will take some time. If you have just a few files, then it will be almost instant. But before we dive into the demo, let me explain how listing files works. Here we have a quite simple query. It targets a set of files in a storage and returns only a first row. This is quite useful for us to see how listing files impact query duration, because selecting the top one from any source is instant operation, while listing files may take time in this case. So whenever you write a query, serverless SQL pool will invoke storage and ask for a list of files starting with a path up to your first wildcard. This means that storage will list all files beneath that first wildcard, including subfolders. And you can easily imagine you have thousands of folders with thousands of files and so on. It can take time. In this case, I have here a simple folder structure. Basically, I have 10 folders and 100 files in each folder. So in total, 1,000 items will be listed by storage. And you can see here that it was like instant operation. It took just 1 second. In the other example, I have pretty much similar query, but this time it has way more files. So 10 folders, each folder having another 10 subfolders, each folder having another 100 folders, and then we have a 100 files in each of that folder. And this sums up to 1 million, but please note that we hard-coded the first folder, so basically we are listing 100,000 files in this query just to get one row. And we can see that it takes 2 minutes and 39 seconds. So basically we lost, I would say, or spent 2 minutes and 39 seconds just to list files. So obviously quite a big difference we have here.
Okay, so that seems like quite a big impact, Philip, but is there something we can do to optimize that? Because I know that a lot of customers will have used partitioning for their folders to make those things go faster when reading them with different tools as well. So what can we do to optimize this in serverless SQL pools?
Well, yeah, there are two things that we can do. With, as you said, with the partitioning, we basically increase the number of files, most likely, right? Because now it's not just a few files, it's probably in multiple folders, at least each one of them having a few files or something like that. So with the partitions, you get a larger number of files for sure. But the trick is to not oversplit your data, so you don't end up micro-partitioning your data. You need to find a balance between the number of files, meaning number of partitions, and number of files per partition. It's usually an easy exercise to do, and you have to keep in mind the access patterns for your queries. So if you're mostly reading data for one partition or a specific set of partitions, then partitioning the data is a very good thing to do. Yet please keep in mind not to overdo it. As you saw in the demo, listing 100,000 files can have a significant impact and basically outweigh the benefits of partitioning, right?
Yeah.
The other thing that you can do, and what we see that some IoT customers with IoT workloads do, basically IoT workloads are characteristic that they have multiple partitioning columns, like let's say year, month, day, hour, sensor, a spot, whatever there is. So obviously many files throughout the time, and the number of files increasing rapidly. So with the way serverless SQL pool works today, meaning asking for a list of all files beneath the first wildcard, what you can do is that you can craft, let's say, a stored procedure, which will have a few parameters like year, month, date, and so on, and then craft a dynamic SQL that will hard code those parameter values into path directly. So something similar like we did in the second example. If you remember, I hard coded the folder 0, the first folder in our path.
So if you're interested in knowing how to do this in dynamic SQL, as you see in just a small video just here before, you can go and click the link that you can find in the description. And that basically summarizes our call of today. Thank you very much for watching. If you like this video, please give us a thumbs up. And if it's your first time to the channel and you like the content, just subscribe. And if you want to see something else or anything that goes on to this topic or have any questions, just write it in the comments and we'll get back to you. Thank you very much and bye.
Bye.